Hey everybody, it's Jason. I'm still in Italy. I took a 2-week vacation, but the show must go on. And we had 2 amazing guests we had booked before I even planned my trip to Italy. And I had no choice but to do these 2 interviews because they're awesome companies doing awesome things. Glenn Kelman was on. I recorded that episode from Florence. What a wonderful city. I went to see the Statue of David. I ate gelato, pasta, walked around. I saw incredible art. It was absolutely wonderful. And the interview with Glenn was amazing. You guys had so many great comments on it. I saw a lot of people sharing it on Twitter. He was super honest. And immediately after having Glenn from Redfin on, I said to him in the post show, where we do a little chit chat, hey, he said, this is such a great experience. I loved it. I said, yeah, let's do it again in exactly a year. And his PR person said, sure, we'll book it for a year from now. And then you guys and gals all loved it so much. We said, you know what? We'll have him on in 6 months. Our next guest is working on a company called Splice. And I've been waiting to have him on the program because I've heard about this company over and over and over again from my friends in the music business, my wife who likes to sample music and makes music sometimes, and a number of my friends. So I decided, hey, I'm here in Tuscany. I'm literally out of the pool. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I'm wearing a hat. This is actually technically a swim shirt. I jumped out of the pool. I ran to my desk to do this interview. And after this, I am going to go for a hike. And then I'm having a pizza party and with a bunch of my friends here in the countryside in Tuscany.
Season 3 of The Next Unicorns is brought to you by Odoo is a fully customizable and fully integrated suite of business apps that lets you build and scale your stack as you build and scale your business. Your first app is free forever, and right now, Odoo is offering $1,000 off your first implementation pack at odoo.com/twist. That's odoo.com/twist. LinkedIn Jobs. A business is only as strong as its people, and every hire matters. Post your first job free at linkedin.com/unicorn. And Embroker's startup insurance program helps startups secure the most important types of insurance at a lower cost and with less hassle. Save up to 20% off of traditional insurance at embroker.com/twist. And while you're there, get an extra 10% off using offer code TWIST.
So, as many of you know, music has changed a lot since many of us were kids in the 70s and 80s. There were musicians and they played instruments. But then this wonderful thing called a computer came out. Bill Gates put one and Steve Jobs put one in every home. Now we have not only one in every home, we have one in every pocket, one attached to every TV. And music has advanced massively. Many of you know that sampling in hip hop became a very, very big trend. Even from the late 70s, Rapper's Delight, Sugar Hill Gang, I think being one of the first to use a sample. And since that time, people with their laptops have been creating their own music. But it is fraught with intellectual property issues. And you are only as good as the collaborators as you could get in one room. Studio musicians and having the money to get a band together kind of determined if you were going to make a breakout success, but because of the internet and because of sampling and now because of Splice, you can make incredible songs with a team of collaborators and you don't even have to be in the same room. And great music is being made. Some people might argue, are these musicians? Are they just sampling stuff and remixing? Who cares? It's got a great beat. People like to dance to it. People like to work out to it. I'm not going to be hoity-toity about it. Then again, my favorite musician is Mark Knopfler, for my money, one of the top 5 guitarists of all time and top 5 songwriters of all time. But, I'm not going to be here and be an okay boomer. Today on the program, Steve, I'm going to hope I get this right when I'm in Italy. Martocci or Martocci?
If you're in Italy, you should probably be saying Martocci, but my family here in the U.S. says Martocci.
Martocci, yeah. That makes sense. Now, you're the CEO and co-founder of Splice, which you started back in 2013. Yep. You also started 2 other companies. I remember GroupMe. Mm-hmm. Or was it GroupMe or Message? No, it was GroupMe.
No, yeah, GroupMe. Yep.
GroupMe, which broke out at, I think, South by Southwest, or at least that's where I became aware of it. You sold that to Skype. Arguably, you sold early. We'll talk about that. But no regrets. You got a nice win out of it. Then I think you did Blade, the helicopter company. Am I right about that?
Co-founded Blade as well, yes.
Co-founded Blade, the Uber of helicopters, which I think is still operating and doing quite well.
Doing great.
And you started Splice, which if you haven't seen it, you're not in the music business, you just go to splice.com. It costs $10 a month, I think, and you get, and there's, I believe, I'm going to say there's hundreds of thousands of people paying for this already. It might have even broken 1 million, but people don't know this. And Steve, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of people making music today, we are aware of, thousands of artists on Spotify.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong, that there are millions, if not tens of millions of people on a global basis making music as a hobby and a passion, and some number of them are using Splice, correct? Welcome to the program.
Yeah, 100. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is super fun and taking a time after the pool until you go back to the fun. So, look, I think that music creation, I mean, if you think about it, we like to say a third of the world tries to make music at some point. Like, think about playing a recorder in elementary school and public school and the people who have banged on a drum. And it's just been this hard, there's a hard learning curve and a lot of people drop off and I'm like, oh, I'm not musical. But software can change that, right? You might not have as much rhythm or the dexterity or have to, play guitar the first time and get the fingering right on the chords. But like software has a chance to keep you engaged longer. And there are tens of millions of people creating now. And I think, with things like GarageBand everywhere and all the mobile apps, you could see that being a 9-figure number.
And you have hundreds of thousands of
hundreds of thousands of paying subscribers, millions of registered users.
Wow.
And people like are lifelong musicians. Like it's, the retention's really great. We want it to be a pretty sad day when you cancel your Splice account. It's like selling the drum set or the guitar in your garage.
So pretty simple pricing. You pay $10 a month. You get 100 monthly sound credits. If you're a creator or a creator plus, you pay 20 or 30, you get 200 or 500 sound credits. And for people to think about this, it's essentially like the stock photography business. So when I was in the magazine business, you would subscribe to a stock photography. You either pay $50 a photo, or you might pay $5,000 a year for 300 photos. You could use them in your magazine. Everybody knows stock photography. This is a stock library of music. And also, I think you kind of have sound effects and sound there. So if I wanted a game show theme or somebody knocking on a door, I could get that too, right? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think, the core thing we're known for is the library of samples and loops. There's over 2 million samples in the library, growing every day. Every day there's new content released, spanning from, the drum beats and hits and one-shots, loops, vocal lines, and then, like sword fights and things like that. So that's great for podcasting and video and all that. Everything's available royalty-free. So no attribution, no royalty paid out. You just have your subscription, you do your download, and you can use it in your music completely royalty-free. And then, with those two other plans, the kind of creator and creator plus plan you were mentioning, that's where we've gotten into a lot more than just the sounds. Music education, because again, so many people fail or get stuck in different spots. And then our own first party creator tools. So just trying to make the creative process better all the time. And so that more people don't give up on themselves. We say our biggest competition is people giving up on themselves. So we've rounded out the platform and continue to round it out with everything, you kind of need to stay inspired and create.
How much time and money do you spend integrating a bunch of different software products together at your company? Let me guess, way too much time. Well, Odoo is here to help. Odoo is a suite of business apps that runs your entire company on one platform. They'll streamline your workflow by bringing all of that information together. Plus, Odoo's integrations eliminate repetitive tasks and data entry. If you only need 2 or 3 apps to optimize your workflow, that's all you pay for. Odoo won't stick you with the bill for apps you don't use. Odoo has an app for every business need. They offer 30 main apps that are updated regularly and over 16,000 apps from their active open source community. You can keep your books tight with their financial software, and their sales and CRM apps will help provide a clear and organized view of your business. So here is your call to action. Your first app is free forever. And right now, Odoo is offering a 1 $1,000 credit on your first implementation pack. That's not a joke. That's $1,000. Just go to odoo.com/twist to check it out. That's odoo.com/TWIST. Okay, so most importantly, for the audience who doesn't know what royalty-free means, let's explain what happens when, in the 90s, a rapper or a band would make a remix and take somebody else's sample, even if it was just a beat or a sample of a second. What would happen if they didn't clear that license? And then what does royalty-free mean? Explain the legal framework here.
For sure.
Why that's so important.
Music rights, it's a very complicated world. And, there's two sides of things. There's the master recording, which is the actual recording of something. And then there's the composition underneath it. Like, did someone write a melody or a vocal line? And when you sample directly from another track, you're really violating both of those in most cases. You're like the actual recording, and if it's long enough, the composition of what's happened. And so, it became such a part of culture because, people were doing it. It inspired so much creativity. But you'd get releases where all of a sudden the original rights holder is like, wait a second, that's my song. And you watch, these claims get made and royalties being taken. And you can clear things. You can go to the rights holders and say, I want to use this in my track, and they can sign off on it. And you will give them a split of the song or a buyout fee, something along those lines. But that takes forever. Tracking down the rights holders, finding that process just stifles creativity. And so what we wanted to do is create a very clean abstraction where you don't have to worry about any of that. You go in, you find the sound, you get inspired, and you start writing. And you don't have to worry about the clearance. It's there. We protect you. And, we really do want to make it so that when you're in that creative flow, you don't have to have those thoughts going through your head about whether or not this is going to be legal.
So if I were to sing the word gelato right now and go, gelato, and then somebody makes that into a song, which I think I just invited young Spielberg to make a gelato. I'm eating a lot of gelato. That I own that piece of intellectual property. If somebody were to put that in a song, I could then sue them and make them either take it out of the song and get damages for it. And so if I wanted to take other people's stuff, what you're saying is, how do I sit there and jam and make a creative song if I have to go every time I want to add some beat, ask somebody for clearance? And if I take royalty free, I have to pay nothing forever for the life of it. You have bought that sample from somebody or made it yourselves. We'll find out about that in a second. But you buy that from somebody. They sign an agreement that says, I no longer own this. Splice owns it. And anybody who Splice sells it to down the road gets it for free forever. When I sign up for my $10 a month, I know that everything on the platform I never pay for again. And if I sold that gelato beautiful melody I just sang to Splice, and somebody made a song that became Baby Shark or whatever and made $1 billion off of it or $100 million off of it, I would see $0.0. Am I correct?
You wouldn't see 0.0, so close, right? There's nuance to like what you're allowed to do with things. You can't redistribute the sample on its own as like another piece of a sample library.
I can't resell it. Yeah.
Right. And technically like, they own it, but they are licensing it to us in this way. They get paid for, a lot of our deals, the majority of our deals in Splice get a pro rata share of the downloads. So you get something every time someone downloads it. You just don't get something in the track. So on the recording side. And look, I think that's, our artists know that going in. That's not a surprise. That's not a secret. But they're able to get, relatively large payouts from the hundreds of thousands of people downloading their sounds. And that's a great income stream for them. They don't have to worry about like maybe someone will have a hit. They just get paid on the download. And, it's been really great to take and build careers, off this like interesting abstraction in the space in this royalty-free music.
So just to make up a story here, I'm a young Mark Knopfler. I play guitar particularly well. I haven't written Sultans of Swing yet. And I'm just doing little guitar riffs or even playing chords. I put my collection of finger-picked, Stratocaster, amazing harmonic music, and I put that Mark Knopfler-esque sample up there. People start downloading it. It becomes popular in one song. Other people start saying, hey, where'd you get that from? I found it on Splice.
Yep.
Now everybody starts downloading it. You've got hundreds of thousands of members paying tens of dollars a month, which is hundreds of dollars a year. You're making tens of millions of dollars. You take the million samples or 100 million samples that get downloaded this month, and everybody gets a penny per download, 10 cents per download, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more than streaming royalties, I'll tell you that. And, it doesn't have the same scale, but what's cool is it proportionally grows with how much, we kind of bring in. And what's good too is a lot of this stuff is evergreen, so it sticks around and people come in. It doesn't necessarily need to be a hit. So like new people join the platform, they come back and they find that amazing, guitar sample, and you can release more content all the time because these are, they're smaller snippets, right? Some of these artists can create this like just in a day in their flow. So, it's a unique, I think it's like people are finding a really nice balance of sound design and sample creation as a new incremental form of their artistry and career.
Got it.
So like you can be working on full length tracks and then do these smaller tracks as well.
So what are the top 10% of people who are putting up samples there? Are they putting up dozens of samples, hundreds of samples, thousands of samples? Your top 20% of creators, how many samples do they have up there? Packs
are somewhere between 100 and 500 sounds, and those can range. The difference between 100 and 500 is like how long they are, because some of them are just, one shot, like drum hits and stuff, right? So you want a lot of those. And then with the loops that have, more melodic or longer form content, you can do less of those, and they get very popular.
So what would somebody in the top 25% of creators be able to make per month/year off of their, modest collection of sounds?
It's really, the dollar amount is very interesting because this is a unique revenue stream for them. One, it's usually all incremental. Two, it's not really stepped on the way musicians are used to with like, oh, there's a label in between, and then there's this in between processing, and then, or I'm touring and I have, all the crew and all the travel expenses. So, some people make a couple $1,000s a month off their tracks. Some people have made hundreds of thousands of dollars off their works. And what I love is just how happy they are for this revenue because it is incremental. We pay on time.
They could be a studio musician and make their rent or mortgage every month.
For sure.
And when you're a studio musician and you play on a track, you just do a work for hire. Maybe you get some residuals, but probably you don't.
It depends. Yeah. Session musicians, deals in session musician land are all over the place. And like, to have, some of my favorite text messages are when a musician friend just is like, man, I just got my Splice check. And I'm just like, so thankful for it.
It's amazing. What is the split between creators and Splice?
It really depends, right? So all the deals are pretty custom. Sometimes there's a buyout. Sometimes we really encourage everybody to continue to have a royalty just because we want them to see growth if they do very well on the platform. And like, I think
what's that? You said that you take a certain percentage of revenue and split it between everybody. Is it 50-50, 70-30?
So, it depends. Every deal is different. There's no like standard
you do it on
rate.
A deal by deal basis.
Yeah, because it's like how much content is coming in, what's unique about the artist. Sometimes they draw more people to the platform. We have a big in-house team as well. So I think I think one of the things, if you ever look at us in the news, I very rarely like to talk about any kind of Splice metrics or numbers other than artists paid. No, I just like to talk about artists paid, right? Like we announced 40 million paid out to artists and like, and we raised $55 million of
you raised
capital.
You've paid out to date 40 million, you're saying?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Over that amazing. Now, but that was the last announcement we made. Yeah.
Got it. So that means this last year has been great. So if in the last year you're doing 10 million a year or something to artists?
More than that. Yeah.
More than that. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's really cool. So, that is the stat I'm proud of. And I think that as we continue to scale, I listened to your NFT episode, and I heard you talking about, how cool it would be if with music rights, it wasn't just a consumption thing, but it was more of a, how to use this and it looked like the music industry. I think what's really cool where we are is we've kind of, created this royalty-free opportunity, which is, it's used in half a top 40 music at any given time.
Wow.
And then now kind of continuing to understand the artist and their needs. Where does scarcity, where does uniqueness, where does maybe royalty bearing, all these different opportunities to kind of build off of where we are and keep paying out artists. So, I think there's a nice long road ahead of us on how we can continue to evolve the content side of the business.
And can anybody start putting samples on there, or you have to be approved?
I wish, like the goal, we talk about wanting to build an open ecosystem, but originality is so important on the platform. And like, look, I can't have people running into copyright issues because they pulled something and quality issues. I mean, one of the things I think that's we're most known for is these samples can be pretty much dropped right into your track. And that's a rare sight. So I think as technology evolves and as our community and we want to lower the bar so more people can participate. But right now we really think that quality and, originality are higher concerns than the openness right now.
Let me just say up front, go to linkedin.com/unicorn and post your job for free. That's it. I'm giving you the call to action up front. LinkedIn.com/unicorn, get your first job for free. And here's why you should do that. It's because many small business owners are super busy today. We all know that. You're searching for and interviewing the wrong candidates for a job opening would be better spent growing your business. We all know this. And you get so many people applying who are not qualified. It's hard. Well, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to get the right candidates who are worth your time interviewing. And it's fast and it's free. You can create a free job posting in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and you'll reach the world's largest professional network of over 750 million people. You know this because you're on LinkedIn every week, probably using it multiple times a day if you're like me. And you can focus on candidates with the skills and experience you need and use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified people. And those screening questions are great for filtering out people who are serious or not. Then you use simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize who you would like to interview and eventually hire. We love LinkedIn Jobs here at launch. And in 2021, we've hired a third producer, a curriculum designer, and a couple of researchers. I mean, we're crushing it. Once again, LinkedIn Jobs will help you find the right candidate worth interviewing faster. Every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/unicorn, linkedin.com/unicorn to post your first job for free. Terms and conditions apply because they're giving you a free job listing, okay? What I was going to ask next is, does this not become a race to the bottom where, I am a great drummer. I played in Billy Joel's band. I put up some stuff. You recognize me as that famous drummer. I forgot his name from Billy Joel's band. And he puts up a bunch of interesting sounds. And then somebody who's a super competent musician, from, Manila, New Jersey, Sao Paulo, listens to it, mimics it. It's not, you can't copyright a beat. You can't copyright somebody just hitting the drums. So they make something similar in a pack and there's no recourse there. So couldn't somebody just, make their own Mark Knopfler?
We have we have a content team. We do review content on the way in.
Liberty DeVito, that's the guy's name.
Nice.
Remember him, Liberty DeVito? That's the guy's name.
I should give him more credit because Billy Joel is awesome.
I mean, in terms of Billy Joel, like people forget this. The drums in the Billy Joel songs, remember Allentown? Whatever, you guys get it.
I have not
spectacular at drums. And he wasn't a member of Billy Joel's band. So I think there was like this movie, the documentary, I haven't seen it yet, about how Billy Joel's band was really resentful because Billy Joel just swept all the money, swept all the credit, and the band didn't get anything out of it. It was really gnarly.
And by the way,
it really is unfair to the music business, right?
Right. That's one thing I think we really want to be doing here. We're empowering artists earlier in their career before they've necessarily signed a publishing deal or broken to be able to create small form content on Splice. Hopefully, like you said, pay that mortgage, pay that rent with, these little snippets of sound. And then when they go in to get a deal, they don't have to sign like the first thing that comes over them because they need to eat. Like I really kind of want to smooth those power dynamics out a bit. And I think that's a long-term play for us is continuing to, we think about two sides of the artist journey. First, we think about making music, how do you make music? Yeah. And then how do you make it in music? Right. Yes. And that gets, at some point, it transitions from, am I inspired to try to create? Can I make something I like? Can I make something others like? Get feedback on it. Can I make $1? Can I make a career? Can I be a superstar? We have to help people along that curve once it gets to that $1, or they're going to have to go get a job. You know, so our goal is to raise that curve, make you a lifelong musician, and those power dynamics for those kinds of, session musicians that are incredibly talented. We think we can raise the curve there for them by giving them these opportunities.
In a way, it's what's happened with podcasting and YouTubers as well. And so I had been offered to be a CNBC contributor or other networks as well. and they wanted to pay me, etc. Other people wanted me to do reality TV shows. And, I did these negotiations, and I was like, they're like, yeah, well, for a network TV show I was going to do with NBC that I did a pilot for, they were like $30,000 an episode. And I was like, my podcast makes $15,000 an episode. So I'm going to be on network TV and you're going to pay me 30. The show's going to make $5 million an episode and cost $2 million to produce. And my podcast, I make $30,000 a week on. Are you kidding me? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And then you look at the YouTubers, like they get cast in some TV show and they get offered $5,000 or $10,000 an episode. And they're like, my YouTube channel, makes $100,000 a month. I'm making $1 million a year. Why would I do that? Like, you can't get those people. And I think it's really interesting. You're talking about the dynamic. It does create that floor. It does create that stability for them. But I interrupted you on the race to the bottom. You said you have a content team that I think is, I'm assuming, listening to that drummer from New Jersey who listens to Liberty DeVito, copies it, and then tries to, draft off his pack, which we see in graphic design and stock photography as well. Yeah. Some great photographer, or some great designer makes a beautiful logo, and then all these people steal it and adapt. I'll just say charitably adapt it, but we all know what's going on. They're basically mimicking it, is a charitable way of saying it, and stealing it would be the uncharitable way of saying it. Your group is looking for that, right?
Yeah, we're trying, right? Like, I wouldn't call it like a full... I think we do a really, really great job. I think people are proud of our library. I think we continue to get stricter and stricter about, it's kind of like an app store process in a way. Like, and it's not perfect, but it's like, we want things to be... We don't want people wasting their time on Splice. Like, I really care that every minute you're spending with us is the fastest you can get to getting that sound in your head or that creative thought out into the world, right? I want to keep, we say we're looking, the vision statement for the company is a world of more transcendent musical highs. And there's two sides of that. There's the fans getting the music that they're deeply connected to, so spiritually, like, wow, in their best moments and worst moments. But it's really on the creator side about keeping them in their bliss while they're creating. And, when you're in your flow state, flow state, like when you're in there, it's the best feeling in the world, right? Yeah. And technology and not having an idea for a sound and not being able to get to it. These things can break you music is complicated, to be perfectly honest. Like it is a hard, audio is a way harder space than anyone realizes. And so if we can keep them in their bliss, that's the moment. So I don't want them wasting a single moment on a bad sound.
So when you have somebody complain like, hey, somebody's knocking my stuff off, what do? You're kind of insinuated like the App Store has to deal with this. Somebody makes Angry Birds, somebody makes like perturbed, pigs, and it's like, okay, we get it. You're trying to steal the idea. But Mark Pink has gotten in a lot of trouble with Zynga. He was making like a Mafia game or some other tower defense game, and I came to his defense on this a little bit, which is like there are some genres. Somebody makes Goodfellas. Right. Somebody should still be able to make, Scorsese should make Goodfellas after The Godfather, and Sopranos can come after that. But it is a real judgment call. So you've had to make these judgment calls. How do you make them? I'm just curious.
Yeah, look, I mean, I am floored by our content team. Like, there are humans on this planet with ears that just blow my mind. Like, they can listen to any song and be like, I know where that came from, that came from, that came from. Wow. And, what we generally try to do is not shut the artist down if something comes up and just say, hey, we don't think this is original enough. Can you do something else?
Got it.
And they're like, cool, I can do something else. So it's more of a collaboration, I would say, of caring about, what's good for our users and what we think will do better on the platform, right? By working with, and we don't do that with everyone, but with especially our in-house stuff with, a lot of the higher profile artist work that we do, we really want to make it so that they're showcasing their best talents, for our library.
How many in-house artists do you have just making samples? That would be like the equivalent of a stock photography company. And I think some of them do this. Yeah. Hiring photographers to work for them full-time, giving them benefits, which is crazy in the photography industry. It doesn't really exist anymore. And then just saying like, go take pictures of San Francisco. We get requests for the Golden Gate Bridge all the time. We need more Golden Gate Bridge. So you have a lot of people doing that, and
at least 35 people making content, and then more supporting the other content creators. Like really now we get to do some fun stuff. I mean, people's jobs are like, go capture the sounds of the world. Like
crazy. Get like a subway train.
We have glaciers, like the sounds of like what it's like walking a glacier, and whale sounds and like things like that. And then also we're going into all these different countries. We went over to Senegal and did a whole series of packs with local producers there. And we used the proceeds to build a school. Like, it's a real great way to figure out how to bring the sounds of the world to the world appropriately. Yeah. And leave the place better, than we found it by building a healthy relationship around the world.
Certainly some of these musicians would say, I would think some high-end musicians would say, I don't want to give my music away royalty-free. Totally. I'm established, etc.
Yeah.
How do you convince people who are on the bubble of that? Like, now, if you're a Liberty DeVito, you might be like, I don't know. But, I guess there's an argument, if you were high profile, that this could be even perceived as marketing.
It is.
I'm taking a guess at that. Is that true? Yeah. Do people look at it and go, I'm Slash, I want to be on Splice, and I want to have a bunch of Slash sounds because it's marketing for me. If people put Slash sounds in their songs, even if I don't get paid, it builds my profile.
Exactly. So, I won't forget the beginning of the journey when I would show people the Splice and they would be like, there's no way I'm giving you my secret sauce. Like, this is how I make it, right? But then they would see the other artists on the platform. And they would see like, oh, wow, I remember when someone saw Just Blaze was on the platform, and that was like, oh, if he's on there, maybe I should be on there. And it flipped from like people holding back their secret sauce to being a badge of honor, to being on the platform. Right. And to inspiring, and it'd be amazing because you could be a leader of a genre, and now all of a sudden, like, your genre has blown up because you've provided sounds to help other people create it. And I think that flip was really interesting to watch, which was that transition from the no way am I giving my secret sauce to that becoming part of the career development process.
So, raising money for this kind of thing is pretty hard as an entrepreneur. Because people come to me with a music startup. I'm like, oh, great. Got anything in healthcare? It's like, you're going to fail. This is a disaster. Like, healthcare with the incumbents, the music industry with the incumbents. I'm curious how two groups of people looked at you, because you have been successful at raising money eventually, but I'm guessing it was harder in the beginning before you figured this out. But that's just a guess. And then I'm curious what the music industry thinks of you, because they are persnickety and weird, and they can be at their worst, cutthroat and, unethical.
Yeah. So look, this is the ultimate question, right? Splice was at the top of my do not do this list.
Do not fly.
A company. Do not do, like, you're passionate about this, but don't do this. It's going to be a terrible idea. And I had an artist friend who got into programming after GroupMe was successful. And he said to me, because we started with collaboration software, and he said to me, where's GitHub for music? And it took my do not do this list and it just took it over the line. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to go down this crazy ass path. And, luckily coming off GroupMe's success, Andy Weissman from Union Square Ventures, who was my first investor of GroupMe at BetaWorks, and then Adam Dugeli from True Ventures, who had run a music label for a while, small kind of indie label. They were in, but I will tell you, almost everyone else who were my initial investors, at least the more institutional ones, were like, anything but music. Like, please, Steve, you can do anything, but don't do a music company. And look, the fact that I'm on this show, on a path, to try to get to 100 million ARR here it feels like you're building it's the effort probably required to get to a decacorn.
Yeah, exactly. So what about the music industry? In a way, I'm thinking the music industry likes you because you get rid of their biggest headache, which is somebody makes an album and then their legal department has to clean up the mess.
I think that's right. I think in a moment, like, that's my thing in this space, is not to be coming in and be like, I'm Mr. Disruptor. Technology is going to change everything. I'm not going to need your old. I actually have worked really hard to build bridges with both the, music industry, the music instrument side of the businesses. I haven't been like, fuck you guys, where tech is coming in and cloud and AI is going to change everything. It's really been a attempt to build a harmonious relationship by just doing things better and understanding everybody's needs and desires. Like, we don't take away from any of the revenue that the labels and publishers, we're only incremental if we work with their artists. We help them write music faster. In general, I think that's what's been cool about building a brand like this. It's a pretty loved brand. And I take a lot of pride in that, and being able to navigate a really, really muddy territory, as you know, in this normally cutthroat space.
Every startup needs business insurance, and you should look no further than Embroker. If you don't have insurance, you failed one of the first steps. Embroker technology saves you time and money. Prices are up to 20% lower with better coverage than the incumbents. You can go from sign up to quote and purchase in just 10 minutes. When you work with Embroker instead of business insurance incumbents, you're not dealing with large, slow corporations. Plus, the sign-up takes days, not weeks, and the process is transparent with no opaque pricing. Here are 4 crucial types of startup insurance that they cover. And you're going to need all 4 of these in all likelihood. Cyber insurance, in case you get hacked. D&O insurance, so if your directors and officers do something dumb and you get sued, you're covered. You have E&O insurance, which covers errors and omissions. That's what the E and the O stands for. And it helps you scale because many major customers will ask to see your E&O insurance in order to close a deal. And of course, EPL, Employment Practices Liability. This covers harassment, wrongful termination, and more. To instantly buy custom-built insurance for startups, go to embroker.com/twist. That's embroker.com/twist. And while you're there, get an extra 10% off using the offer code TWIST. You guessed it. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Speaking of AI, GPT-3, which for people who don't know is a project by OpenAI, an AI nonprofit that is very well funded, that allows you to take a corpus of text, everything Hemingway ever wrote, and then you could create an AI where you talk to a Hemingway bot and it talks like Hemingway, or somebody did it with the besties on All In, and you can have a conversation between Sachs and Chamath and me and Friedberg, and it tries to mimic our voices based on that. I'm wondering if you think an AI or ML for music, where you and I could just say, gelato, gelato, put in a beat like this, make it sound like Biggie Smalls, make it sound like Biggie Smalls collaborating with Tupac. And, boom, you all of a sudden have the beats emerge, and then it samples stuff and says, does this sound good? And you basically have an AI making music. Are you doing any AI or ML? Can I hum into Splice at this point? Or I don't know if you have an app like Shazam did. Can I hum into it and have it say, try these samples? Or can I describe what I want and have it, I say, hey, listen, I want to have like a drum that sounds like Neil Peart from Rush, rest in peace. And, but I want to have it with a little bit of, whatever, like Pink Floyd.
I got answers for you. So, all the progress on the AI front is just incredible. I think it's going to be a revolutionary space. And the key here is figuring out how to engage with the human side of it to pushing the art forward, not just replacing musicians. And I think that so much of music, the narrative of the artist behind it and the story and community they build. And that's the important part, right? So what we've been focusing on is more of the AI assisted creation. So really helping in the music process. So the first thing we released is a feature called Similar Sounds, which is basically you find a sound you like on Splice, but it's not quite right. And there's a way to kind of turn the fine tune knob, and it gets you all the either, the timbre is similar or the harmonics are similar. And like what you were saying, I have this sound, it's not quite right, but I know I'm close. That same ethos I was saying around not wasting your time. You can press down several hundred times and find it. Or you can press this button and you'll find it in two presses of down. So it's like the Amazon, if you like this, you might like this, that, kind of thing. But on the music, but very much on the, ML trained on the audio signal itself, which is very cool. The next one go ahead. But
if you do that, that means I might download your sample of this drum beat, and then I might also download somebody else's 2 or 3, so it increases consumption, right?
Yeah, the consumption goes up.
Listening to it doesn't cost me money, but downloading it does.
Correct.
Does that mean people could just rip it by listening to it?
I mean, it's like a user experience thing, right? Yeah. It's like similar to the Spotify world and stuff like that. The ones you listen to on the site are a lower quality. You want the higher quality ones that you download and you pay a credit for. Honestly, the workflow is just yes, you could rip it and put it through the thing, but dragging it right into your DAW or having it be right into your music software, it's just a better experience. And so
it's really
we try not to play the cat and mouse game of piracy that much in the space.
What's really interesting about fair pricing is, I don't know if you remember this, but the radio stations used to they couldn't play a whole album, but they would play the side of an album.
Huh.
So when in the 80s, we used to know that like K-Rock would play half of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon or, whatever on this time or whatever. And we would get our cassette tapes out because we couldn't afford it. We'd have 90, $1 blank tapes and we would record half of it and then we could record over it. We're like, people are stupid buying things. We could get it for free. And it was like, we were listening to Dark Side of the Moon on a TDK tape that was taped over 20 times.
Generation tape. Yeah, totally.
It did not sound very good.
Yeah.
But you were going to say there's another piece to either piracy or ML.
Well, some of the AI. So I think some of the stuff you'll see from us next is really assisting in the songwriting process in a way that I saw some tech recently. I'm just floored. And the way that we can use AI ML to accelerate the songwriting process is so
what floored you about it?
Give
me an example.
Just the way that we can find compatible sounds from our library to kind of build out a track for someone is wild. And I think we're going to be sitting on a revolution of the songwriting process in the next few months here. That is exciting. So,
well, it's kind of like Howard Stern is a great interviewer, especially of musicians. I think his I don't have you ever heard Howard interview musicians before?
Yeah.
And he always talks about the songwriting process. Just had Elton John on. It was particularly great. Did you hear the 2-part Elton John one? That was 3 hours. Oh my Lord. Stop. After this podcast, just type in Elton John. I mean, he literally gets into it. And he also had Paul McCartney on twice. And he talked to them about the songwriting process like we're talking about here. And it's always the same. Do you start with the lyrics? Do you start with the guitar riff? And everybody has a different process.
Yeah, totally.
And I think for Elton John, it was always they would have the music and then the lyrics would come out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then for McCartney, he would have some lyric and then he would go to John and George and Ringo and he'd say, well, she's got a ticket to ride. And then they would all of a sudden add the music to it. And you go back and forth like that. And the best I heard was my guy, Mark Knopfler, just talking about how he plays around with riffs on the guitars.
Yeah.
And he, over the famous I Want My MTV and that little monologue, look at those yo-yos. That's the way you do it. Play a guitar on the MTV. He overheard that conversation in New York at an appliance store. These appliance guys were moving washers and dryers and they were looking at the TVs at MTV and laughing at these idiots dressed in, guys dressed in spandex. Look at those guys. That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on your MTV. And he literally was like, oh my God, he took out his pen and he wrote the lyrics down.
I love that.
And it was so now you think about AI doing that. And it's okay, well, I have a guitar riff I like. What now? And it could actually be well, this would sound good with this drum beat. And then it's how do you know it sounds good? It's well, if people told you it sound good, then the AI figures it out. However,
Well, I think the key too is just having the AI try and then the person being does that sound good or not? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then quickly switching to the next one until you're until you really feel it. Right. And I think that what's interesting, the way you're even talking about it is the songwriting process. Some people are good at one part of it. Some people are good at writing a melody. Some people are good at writing a beat. And if software can help them move quicker to round out the whole thing, then they can get further and not be blocked. Beatles were just such incredible songwriters that you had access to the collab. When you get stuck, you're hey, John, what do you think of this? And not everybody's got that. And if the machine can at least help you unlock that in yourself and give you, it's almost like a little jazz, you lay something down and then it's giving you what it thinks is right to kind of play off you. How do you build a relationship with that just lets you take music further?
All right. So I know that these Splice samples have been used in Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, BTS, The Weeknd, all these famous people have used it. Have you been able to go to a Justin Timberlake or a Justin Bieber and say, hey, we want you to make a library and then make that premium to be licensed into songs, and instead of it being royalty free, build a royalty level on top of it or premium packs? You play a video game like Fortnite, you get a certain number of weapons or whatever, or skins for free, but then there's this premium, and that could be not royalty free. So you could have Splice, and then you could have Splice with royalties, and you could maybe draw in the people who are even, maybe don't want to be royalty free. They might let you use it for Creative Commons.
Yeah.
And then if you do commercial, then you pay me.
Yeah. So this space has been, on the radar for years. The one side of me that is truly the tech side of me is like really going and securing music rights is like the most like un-me thing there is, because that's like lots of permissions, lots of red tape. I like to build products kind of for the world. And so that are in our control, right? So we started with what we've done. I think we've taken it very far. I think we're very open to exploring that kind of work. We've created some content for it. We've done a little bit of licensing and experimenting in it. We see there's a great opportunity in it. We just have to get it. We have to get it right to go in there. And like, even Apple, they just did, I think Lady Gaga and Dua Lipa samples for GarageBand. But those are only for personal use. They are not for commercial at all. They're in there to kind of play and get a feel of the creator tools. That's how hard it is. Like Apple's not even getting that from them. Wow. So we do want to get it right. We want it to be, we think we love the original content. We think there's so much fresh content to create that, getting blocked on licensing existing content is a long road. It's a hard road. But we are very open to it. We're very open to exploring it if we can bring the right user experience to make that truly seamless and really make sense to our users and interact with the rest of the industry the right way.
Curious what you think of freesound.org. I know when I was doing my research, it came up. They've got 500,000 samples now, so whatever. You have 3 or 4 million. Yep. And I think you have 3 or 4 million. They've been sort of collecting free sounds, and it's Creative Commons. What do you think of those kind of projects? Look, and are they getting steam? Are they competitors, collaborators?
Yeah, I think that there's, free sound is a great thing to exist in the world. More sounds, if that's where people want to grab them from. I just don't know how they handle originality and, the way that we, and the quality level that I know we have on the platform. Like, it's just a question of where you want to spend your time. You can go browse around the free sound library, or you can pay $10 a month and have access to what I know is incredibly high quality and incredibly but like, look, I'm in the land in this music innovation stuff where I welcome I say my biggest competition is people giving up on themselves, because there's so many people who want to create. It's like this inert human desire to be creative, and all these kids want to be, standout content creators now. So like, I'm not worried about anyone else in my space. I'm worried about, can I keep people engaged? Can I keep you a lifelong musician? Can I deliver you great value and product? And the more, I think what's nice about us is we've actually helped some of these other companies been able to raise money and just like even get a shot at a seed stage, because the music is too small of a market thing. We've kind of like started to show that maybe it's bigger. And the creator economy and all the COVID, I mean, we had 1 billion samples listened to during those first 2 months of lockdown last year. There's 400 million samples being listened to a month on the platform. And so like there are people want to create. And so I just think there's such a big market opportunity here. People are finally waking up to it. And, I'm welcoming all of the angles trying to make creativity flow in the world.
So Apple has started to dip their toe in here. They just announced last week that they have sound packs from Dua Lipa and Lady Gaga and some great producers in GarageBand. They're building it in.
Yep.
Seemingly competitive, but I couldn't figure out when I read that release if it was just like educational, inspirational, but I don't know if it's royalty free or not. So is Apple just straight up copying your business model, and are they going to be your biggest competitor?
Look, I have welcomed Apple as a competitor, and the GroupMe world. I've if Apple's not going to be your competitor.
But is this, do you look at that thing they announced last week as competitive, or is it educational?
It's educational. It's like,
is it royalty free though?
No, but what I was saying before is they don't give you a commercial license to do anything with it.
Oh, okay.
It's really
so it's completely
play.
different.
It's really for play and learning the software, which is good for me, because the more people who learn how to use the stuff and then want to go on to make actual tracks, they're going to come in my direction.
It's a sandbox, basically.
It's a sandbox, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's great. I mean, like, they've got that device on everyone's phone. Like, if they can get people inspired. How many times have they
offered to buy you? My God, Apple must want your product. I mean, if you were part of GarageBand, that would just be killer for them.
Yeah, put in the good word. No,
exactly.
No, the one thing that's like serious about this journey that's been, whenever an acquisition offer or anything like that has come up over the years, it's like, to be able to do something so independent that we are doing so well for musicians, this is a unique spot. The fact that it's not like directly Facebook competing with me, or all this, that I'm in this kind of unique lane that no one this is a unique spot to be in right now. So I'm pretty happy to be building an independent company.
Well, the other thing that's good about it is you're a third-time entrepreneur. You made a little bit of chatter on
right.
Message Me, so you can go long. It's not like you have to worry about paying your rent or your apartment or something.
Correct.
And this is the kind of business where it seems really easy to do, but it's not easy to scale. I mean, you have to build this thing for 20 years to get it where it needs to be. Group Me, rather. Sorry. I keep saying Message Me for some reason. But you would have to build this for 20 years to kind of get it to your vision, I think. And you're 7 years in? So you got a long way to go.
And I say I want to build the most iconic company in music history. So, that's going to take some time. And, there's so much zero. I'm a really good 0 to 1 guy, creating something from nothing. And there's so many parts of the stack here to be innovating in that there's kind of an endless appetite for continuing to improve this space.
Yeah, this could be the one where you scale it, right? You do both acts. I mean, Steve Jobs was just not good at scaling. He was a 0 to 1 guy, and then he added being a 1 to a billion guy.
Right.
It just took him a little while to do that. And so I'm curious, just talking about being entrepreneur to entrepreneur. You're part of the Web 2.0 kind of stuff, like I was when things were worth 30 million, or I think you sold Message Me for 80 million or something, 85 million. Group Me, sorry, I keep saying Message Me.
Sorry.
Group Me, you sold for 85 million, I think, to
That's the number in the press. Yeah.
That's the number in the press. Could be a little, some people don't know. It could be earnouts, could be a little more, it could be a little less, whatever. So that was obviously selling too early, except people don't realize when at that era, that was an incredible price. But in today's era, it could have wound up being Slack or WhatsApp. You learn that lesson.
That's pretty funny.
And then today, you can do secondary sales, which you weren't allowed to do back in the day, and you can SPAC stuff. So just as an entrepreneur, what do you think about this new landscape? What's amazing about it and what's bad about it here 20 years later in your entrepreneurial journey or so?
Oh, man. I mean, look, Group Me was so fast, right? We sold that 13 months in. I heard recently it's got 100 million users and double-digit million active dailies. It's kind of amazing. And, you said the Slack thing. I remember after we sold it, I was doing a Hack Week project. My project was just to look at the domain names of the users who had signed up. And then we had 7,000 Verizon employees, 7,000 Best Buy employees. We were Slack in
you had Slack inside of, because there was no... People were using Yahoo Messenger at that time. Remember that? Companies be just get on Yahoo Messenger. You're like, what? That's what we use.
So the thing that's interesting about it to me was that at that point in time when you have that amount of money being offered to you, it's it really is life-changing. And it was also us against the big scary, Skypes and Facebooks and all that. The Facebook Messenger had just come out. iMessage had just come out. It was it was a journey. I remember an iMessage PM who interviewed at Splice said my job for 2 years was to copy everything you made at Group Me.
That's a moment of candidness.
It was nice. My favorite feature was the, emojis when you send them and they go big if you send them on their own.
Yeah.
We did that in Group Me first before anybody. And that was a fun one.
That's wild.
That I'm glad is out.
So they literally just stole it. Wow.
I mean, look.
Apple's not as bad as Facebook, which is just brutal how they just relentlessly steal from founders. I can't take them.
Yeah. And so the SPAC thing is really interesting. Blade went public through a SPAC this year.
It did? I didn't realize that. How's it doing?
Yeah, it did. It's doing well. It's out there in the market. It's it's one of those ones that has a real business right now and the potential to become something, really big with the electronic, takeoff from vertical, VTOL. Yep. And so Rob's done a great job kind of leading that into a public company, which is cool. And then with Group Me, with Splice, it's just a constant, looking at what our best path is to fulfilling that most iconic company in music history. I think we really do have options. It's crazy to be that I'm doing this for 7+ years. It's been wild, but it's been exciting, and to know that there are more capital options than ever to
amazing.
To kind of, I love it.
I mean, you're over 50 million in revenue, I'm sure, or close to around that range. So you could SPAC right now. Mm-hmm. How do you think about that? Would you want to SPAC and be public, or would you rather be able to build in stealth and not disclose numbers? Because right now, everybody knows you. So retail investors on Robinhood, they kind of probably some overlap with, it's kind of like Robinhood going public. It's there's the inception moment. You going public, there's a lot of young people, or Fortnite going public. Mm-hmm. The people buy what they know. So you could get a big investor base.
I think we just got to keep weighing what's right. The overhead of being a public company, the, predictability of that, we have options, and we have a ton of cash in the bank right now. So we're in a good spot. And, that's just what we're plotting all the time, is figure out how to build this into a big independent company.
Amazing. What have you learned about managing people and growing businesses through 3 startups? It's
hard, man. My 0 to 1 days are really, I think the transition from a founder to CEO is a journey. And, I think I'm always learning on it, really trying to lead and empower people. Really glad that we've articulated good company values, mission, vision, all that stuff. It's amazing how powerful, like that transition from when you can tell everybody the thing to like, wait, no, I need documents and really learning at scale. And it's a constant journey for me.
I added that one too, like the idea of like documenting something was something that was kind of forced on us by the pandemic, right? And forcing you to go remote. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm no longer going to manage by talking to people. I'm going to manage by people writing reports. And it sounds like TPS reports, but people actually writing their plan down.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucking cool because you really it's like, oh, people are going to read my plan. I better think my plan through, and then I better read it twice, and I better learn how to write. Yeah. And so I'm literally teaching people who work for me. I'm like, okay, here's Grammarly, and here's the Hemingway app. I don't know if you've used either of those.
No, I've heard about them, but I haven't. Yeah.
Oh my God. They're life-changing. I don't know who copied who, but they're very similar. I use both. And like you go to Hemingway app or you go to Grammarly, it's like, you're in the passive voice, right in the active voice.
Oh,
this is a long sentence. This is too confusing. Even Grammarly's so dope now. They're like, are you writing professionally? What's your goal here? Do you want to be intense? Do you want to be clear? So it actually lets you set what your goal is. And then writing stuff simply. I just went through a whole clinic with deal memos because we syndicate deals on the syndicate.com, and I'm trying to teach my team how to do, and founders how to write a deal memo. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I could teach you how to write. It's going to take me days. Just get Grammarly or Hemingway, put it in there, and look for and just read up on passive voice. And if you just change passive voice and don't make, anytime you get to 10 words in a sentence, ask yourself, just be prepared to start the second sentence.
Wow.
When you get to word, this is my best advice to people who want to be writers, active voice. And when you get to the 10th word in a sentence, just please, for the love of God, consider a period. Like, don't do what I do. I'm a professional writer. I can write a compound sentence. I can write a paragraph that is multiple, commas and em dashes.
Yep.
That shit is complex. That's kung fu writing. Don't do it. That's Mark Knopfler. Stay out of that. Just write like Hemingway. One sentence, 10 to 15 words, you're done.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I mean, I'm checking these out because,
you
that's
suck as a writer?
It's like when I get into the flow, it goes, but it's always so daunting to me. It really is. And I spend so much time correcting stuff that I'm like, I wish I could just talk to someone, Yeah. But yeah,
just do what I'm saying. When you get to your second sentence, it's time for a new paragraph. When you get to 10 words, it's time to think about the period. You are not qualified to use more than one comma in a sentence. Unless you want to be a professional writer and you have a writing coach and an editor, 1 comma max, 10 to 15 words, you got to get that period dropped. 2 sentences, it's time for a new paragraph.
Love it.
And,
love it.
Like a lot of times for writers and in business writing, 1 sentence, 1 point. Mm-hmm. Not 1 sentence, 4 points. Mm-hmm. 4 sentences, 4 points.
Right.
2 points, 1 paragraph, max. 5, 6, 7 points. That's got to be 2 or 3 paragraphs.
I'm really trying to cut down on the number of times I use "and" in sentences at this point too. And it's like, and this, and then that, and that, and it's, I think I'm trending in the right direction based on your criteria.
Well, I mean, think about this. Like if you're talking about Splice and you're like, it's for people who want to add drums, guitars, sounds, whatever. And it's like, no, it's for people who want to make music.
Yeah. And that's, and even as
period.
Period. Yeah. And as we flowed in the conversation, like I could have said, we also sell software, we also do this, but like we focused on...
you have the plug-in store, right?
We have the plug-in store, we have collaboration software. It's another thought, right?
That's another paragraph. Or, here we go, folks, we have like a writing clinic here, or it's time for a subhead where you hit heading 2 or heading 3 in, Word or Google Docs, you say, I'm going to put plugins, and then you start the plugin discussion. So like samples, plugins, and whatever else you're doing are just separate pages in the document.
You are professional writing, huh?
Well, I started as a journalist, and
I know.
I was a self-taught. So what happened to me was when I was in New York, I had all these Columbia and Barnard grads. It was Barnard, maybe mostly women from Barnard, and Kieran, Stacy. Shout out to all the folks at Silicon Valley Reporter, but in '96, and they were like, "You're running a magazine, you don't know how to write." And they were like editors, and they were proofers, and they were 20 years old, and I was 23 or 24, and they were just like, "We'll just edit it for you. Here's how to write." They they taught me a lot of that stuff over time,
I think the one that I'm trying to figure out now is how to, on product and design sense, I don't really know my process. I just do it.
That's a good one.
And I'm trying to extract that as we do it, how do you look at that? What is the principle you're using? I'm like, I don't know. But now I'm trying to really, for my team's sake, trying to really extract out what I'm doing in this process, because it's I don't even know,
Yeah, you need to come up with the heuristics.
Right.
In chess, I was playing chess with David Sachs, and we played a game, and it's like, control the center of the board. I'm like, that's a great way to say it.
Yeah, totally.
And
Sum
he's
it up real clean.
And he's like, unnecessary pawn movements, too many pawn movements, not enough development of your other pieces. And I was like, okay. Now I added those 2 things to my game. And then I was playing poker with Annie Duke, and she invited me to a coaching session she did before a tournament, and I went, and she was just like, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice. Number 1, don't play under the gun seats 1, 2, and 3 unless you have a big pair or ace king, because you got so many people who are going to raise you, and you're a new player. You don't know how to deal with all those people who are going to raise you after that. So just take those 3 hands, and that's when you can study other players. And that was her second tip. When you're not in the hand, watch the other players. Don't look at your BlackBerry, just dating the conversation. Just stare at the other players and try to predict what they're going to do. And I was like, wow, thank you, Annie Duke. And then I got coached by another guy, Phil Helmuth, and then my other friend, Sky Dayton.
That's a good coach.
Well, Phil's one of my best friends. I'm actually here in Italy with Phil. We're playing some cards, and Phil is, he's an incredible player, and he knows how to lay down big hands. People forget why Phil Helmuth is the world's greatest Texas Hold'em player. It really is 3 things, and I was talking to him about this at 2 a.m. last night. 1, he can lay down big hands. So he can lay down a king high flush. He can lay down the smaller boat on the board to the 2 bigger boats. He can lay down the sucker straight, which is the lower end of the straight. You've got 9-10, and I've got the 5-6 part of the straight. So being able to lay down big hands for big pots. And then he is also able to read people very well. And the third thing is people want to play into him because he's the poker brat. So that whole strategy of being obnoxious at the table or starting fights with people, it means people want to get revenge on him, so they'll play into him. If they play into him 10% more, that means they're going to be playing 10% worse hands. Right. And then if he plays 10% better hands because he's more disciplined, now he's just
so
EV positive.
Ahead. Oh, I love that. They're just knowing where you sit in people's minds at the table.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
And I think every single pursuit in life has some basic heuristics. So in product design, I was on your site, it's elegantly simple. There's not a lot of cruft. Right. And I think taking stuff out is one of the best heuristics I've ever seen. And that is what Apple does. Apple looks at every product and says, what can we remove?
Yeah.
And then Microsoft for a long time was like, what can we add to these drop downs?
What can we add to the,
Bill Gates is like, okay, menu. Microsoft Word, we've only got 8 drop downs. Can we get 1 more? Can we get a 9th drop down? And then Apple's like, you know what? All the is bull. Put it in the control center. And you're like, what's control center? It's like, let's make control center so people can get to stuff in 2 clicks. Right. Because right now they're having to hunt and peck.
I think that's also a big function of having to deal with enterprise customers, right? Who won't buy your thing unless it has this feature. So you're like, okay, I'll get this feature in. Unlike Apple, who can just be like, this is how it should be, and come along if you want to.
All right, folks, we got another winner on the program. Hey guys, producers, I'm going to say 6 months. Let's have him on again in 6 months.
I love
congratulations on your great success,
Jason.
I'll have you on.
You know
what I'll do is I'll have you on. I want to start doing the news roundtable again. And you seem like you're pretty brave and fearless in that you would talk about other topics in tech.
Sure.
Some people won't because they're afraid of stepping on people's toes. Well, but you seem like you would do a news roundtable pretty well. I'm going to put you in rotation on the news roundtable, I think.
I like it.
All right, listen, continued success. I assume you're hiring since you raised a big war chest and you're growing so fast. So jobs Splice.com or
splice.com/jobs. Try either one. They'll probably both work.
All right.
Gotta keep
First
that
name
top
at
of funnel.
Splice. And what do you need? You need ML AI engineers? You need engineers?
I always take always engineers. Come on board. Build the coolest software in the world for musicians.
Pre-IPO, folks. Get in there. All right. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.